comments only on the topic of contributions, and any questions directed to the department regarding the substance of the topic of contributions, we will not be able to answer at this event. With that being said, we'll begin tonight's event in a very brief presentation.
I just want to let you know, we need to take a pause to make sure the interpreters are showing up on the screen.
Okay. And so right now we're going to take a brief pause to make sure that the interpreters are showing up on the screen. So please bear with us. Thank you. Oh, okay. Okay, so we are going to redo the introductions just so we can make sure that the interpreters are able to see and everybody's given access. So please, please bear with us. So hello, and thank you for joining us here tonight. My name is Reginald Parson, and I am the Deputy Director with the Maine Paid Family and Medical Leave Program, and I'll be moderating and leading tonight's listening session. With me are my colleagues Dylan Murray, Legislative Liaison with the Maine Department of Labor, and Isaac Gingras, Workforce Development Coordinator with the State Workforce Board here at the Maine Department of Labor. Before I go further, I would like to state that tonight's listening session will be recorded and posted on the department's webpage on paid family and medical leave. Tonight, we are looking for your input on the topic of contribution requirements that are outlined in the paid family and medical leave legislation, and is an opportunity for members of the public to identify areas that need clarification in the legislation. These questions and areas needing clarification will be used to inform the official rulemaking process, which will begin in the spring. And again, this informal listening session does not replace and is in addition to the formal regulatory process governed by the Maine Administrative Procedures Act. To provide you with the roadmap of tonight's listening session, I will begin by providing a brief overview of the provisions of the legislation that pertain to contributions with examples. After the presentation, we'll then open up the meeting to hear from the public. Participants who wish to comment will be allowed up to 2 minutes. If you wish to offer comment, please use the Zoom raise hand function and you'll be called upon by a staff member assisting with this event, and the 2-minute time clock will begin. Given time constraints tonight, we please ask to keep your comments only on the topic of contributions, and any questions directed to the department regarding the substance on the topic of contributions will not be able to answer during this event. With that said, we'll begin tonight's event, and we'll start with the very brief presentation. Second slide. Okay, so again, tonight we'll be very brief with this presentation, and the reason why is to allow as much time as we can tonight to allow the public to weigh in on this particular topic. So with regard to contributions, beginning on January 1 of 2025, employers must begin to conduct payroll withholdings for the paid family and medical leave program. The contribution rate per employee will be 1% of an individual's wage that will be split between the employee and the employer. And so there is a difference of the breakdown depending on the size of the employer. So for employers with fewer than 15 employees, you will be exempted from the employer share contributions, but you will still have to remit those premiums from the employee's wages to the paid family and medical leave fund. In addition, self-employed individuals are able to opt into this program, and if they wish to do so, they'll be paying 50% of their wages. And all of the contributions will be going to the paid family and medical leave fund, specifically to pay for benefits and other administrative costs associated with the program. So as you see down here at the bottom, we did highlight just an example of what 2 types of payrolls might look like. So for example, if you are an employer with 15 or more employees and have a payroll of $1 million a year, your annual premium estimated should be around $10,000. And then that contribution will be split or could be split between the employee and the employer of 0.5% or 50%. And then for employers with less than 15 employees, with an annual payroll of $250,000, that annual premium will be about $1,250. And as again, the employer may deduct that entire amount from the employee's wages, and they will be responsible for remitting that premium. So with that being said, I will now stop my portion of the presentation.
And this is the interpreter. You're muted and we can't hear you anymore.
Oh, I am sorry. Again, we are at the portion of public comment. So if you do wish to offer comment, please raise your Zoom hand and you will be called upon. And that's when the 2-minute clock will begin.
Starting with Betsy Olton.
Okay.
So Betsy, Betsy, I'm asking you to unmute, so you should have to give her permission to.
Hi, this is Betsy Olton
Okay.
From HR Maine Consulting, and I am representing the Maine Local Government Human Resources Association. So these questions are really specific for municipalities or quasi-municipalities. But in terms of wages, would that include, what does that include? So for example, municipalities also have insurance buyouts. If they don't take health insurance, they have insurance buyouts in their wages. They have, on-call stipends, all sorts of different types of monetary compensation. Would that be part of the wages where the tax needs to, originate from? That was my only question for the contribution piece.
Hi, Betsy. Again, we're not going to be answering questions at this time regarding the substance, but that your question is noted. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So Jake LaChance is up next, and I'm going to give you permission to speak, Jake.
Hi there. Hopefully you can hear me all right. Mr. Monahan, Mr. Parson, thank you. My name is Jake LaChance, and I'm a government relations specialist with the Maine State Chamber of Commerce, which represents over 5,000 large and small businesses across the state of Maine. In terms of contributions, I'm just going to go through, in the interest of time, just some bullet points that we have concerns over. One, I think there might be discrepancy whether or not that 1% is a 1% cap, and it can be lower than 1%, and that will be decided on, or if it's already decided that it is 1%. The chamber asks that there's a call for swift action regarding the setting of this contribution rate and the employer-employee split. Both are key variables in employer readiness and decision-making. Not only is it currently a 1% cap, or even, as I already stated, set at 1%, it can be adjusted in 2028 by the administrator in order to meet that 140% total. The vague nature of this can be proven disastrous if the fund pays out higher than anticipated and the rate increases by who knows how much. We understand how important it is to ensure a strong and sustainable trust with this program, and it's important to get it right the first time. Many states have had delays and rate increases and even risked insolvency when you look at states like Washington and Maryland, Massachusetts, and Connecticut after rolling out their programs. And I think it's imperative that Maine needs to learn from those mistakes and take their time throughout this rulemaking process. contributions at the end of the day are tied to private equivalent plans, and employer decisions are rooted in the understanding that there are options between state and private plans. So the sooner that this can be figured out, the better it is for these businesses. With that, I would like to urge that private equivalent plans be a focus of a listening session coming up, as we don't know what those final 2 listening session topics will be. If contributions begin at 1/1 of 2025, employers will need 3 to 6 months at least to make informed decisions about what plans they choose to use. That means that contributions and private plan processes need to be in place by June. And if not, employers might be forced into the state plan, which could risk the sustainability of the state's trust and prevent employers from utilizing the true intent of private plans. And we recognize that this is a huge undertaking for the Department of Labor, and that the private sector aspect of this is really important as well. It's also crucial that we get RFPs for the administration out the door ASAP, given our state's workforce issues, timing, and the aforementioned scale of this initiative. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that this is of extraordinarily heavy impact to small businesses, and this payroll tax directly affects their already tight margins and ability to stay open. If that's probably pretty close to 2 minutes there, so I'll
Yeah.
end there, and I'm sure we'll be talking more, Mr. Parson. I appreciate the time.
All right. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Jake.
So Yennefer's up next.
Okay.
And just gave you permission, Yennefer.
Sorry, I gotta pull it up here. I have no questions, just a very simple statement as to my experiences on how this works. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to address this esteemed board today. My name is Yennefer Fish, and I come before you to share a deeply personal and troubling experience that has highlighted the shortcomings of the current Family Medical Leave Act. My husband, Ryan Fish, and I have faced a series of challenges that have exposed the flaws in the system that is meant to provide support during times of medical need. Our ordeal began with our landlord, James Ernst, who incidentally holds the position of vice president of the Southern Maine Landlords Association, deliberately neglected to address a critical issue in our residence, a malfunctioning water heater. This negligence forced me to cancel a scheduled surgery, a complete right hip replacement, which was necessitated by the vascular necrosis in many of my joints caused by anabolic steroid use given to me while I was receiving chemotherapy. The consequences of this intentional act were not only immediate, but far-reaching, leading to a rescheduled surgery 6 months later. In the midst of this, my husband, Ryan, had just started a new job as a sanitation specialist at Spring Harbor Hospital. Unfortunately, despite the importance of my upcoming surgery and the unique challenges posed by my medical conditions, he found himself ineligible for the FMLA coverage. UNUM was notified of our request April 11th of 2022, and it was declined within 24 hours. The current system allows for individual companies to determine when an employee qualifies for this essential life-saving assistance. In Ryan's case, he had only been employed for 47 days, falling well short of their 180-day requirement. This led to Spring Harbor denying him the crucial time he needed to care for me during my surgical recovery. Shockingly, he was given just 7 days to be by my side before being terminated from his position. The very purpose of the FMLA was rendered ineffective due to the arbitrary eligibility criteria set by the hospital. I am here today not just as an individual who has experienced the shortcomings of the current system in place, but also as a voice for other Mainers who might find themselves in similar situations. The FMLA Act should not be used as a tool for companies to wield at their discretion, leaving vulnerable individuals without the support they so desperately need. It should be an effective, real tool for Mainers in need. I urge this board to consider the consider the human impact of such policies and advocate for an amendment to the FMLA that ensures its accessibility and actual usefulness to all Mainers. We need a clear system that prioritizes the well-being of individuals and safeguards the rights of workers to care for themselves and their loved ones without fear of retribution or retaliation. Thank you for your consideration. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next up is Gail Spofford. And just give me one moment. We're switching over interpreters. Want to make sure everybody can see the interpreter. Okay. All right. So Gail Spofford, I just asked you to unmute, so you should be all set.
I'm,
Evening,
this
and
is
some,
am I spotlit? This is Margaret. We're switching from Juliet.
Yes, you are. Yep.
Okay, thank you so much.
Go ahead, Gail.
she's not on my screen though. Does that make a difference? I can't see her on my screen.
This is the other interpreter. I don't see her spotlight as well.
That's really interesting.
Oh, we're sorry, having little technical hiccups, but all
And I will wait then.
right, thank you.
Oh, you had her for a second.
Goodness gracious.
I can actually
There you
spot.
go. There you go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for your patience,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you
am-
all. All right, go ahead, Gail.
I am very grateful for this webinar. I am so underinformed, and all the other people who have spoken already have been very helpful to me. I only had one question. When you say it has to be paid directly to PFMLA, the fund, so we use ADP for our payroll. I am the vice chair of a school board. Would we just set it up so that that money is sent directly through payroll directly to, it wouldn't be part of our tax contribution to the state. It would go to a separate destination. Is that correct?
Yes, again, not trying to answer questions
Okay.
directly, but I guess the answer, I would encourage you to go to the PowerPoint that's available on the PFMLA website, and that might offer some guidance about that.
All right. And again, thank you so much for putting this on. I'm learning something tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Okay, Eamon Dundon, I'm about to give you permission to speak. And when I say permission to speak, I mean the technical side. Please go ahead, Eamon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director Parsons. Nice to see you and your team. Thank you for hosting this webinar. Eamon Dundon, I'm the Director of Advocacy at the Portland Regional Chamber of Commerce. We represent 1,300 members in the greater Portland area. I'd like to second a lot of the concerns that Mr. LaChance raised from the State Chamber. I think unquestionably the biggest concern our members have right now, given the impending deadline of the 1st of next year for contributions, is just will the department be able to undertake all the necessary work over the next year to ensure that that contribution rate is where it needs to be to support the solvency of the fund, is not in excess of what's needed to support the solvency of the fund, et cetera. And to that point, I guess one sort of request for more information that I would pose to the authority at this time is when the legislation was being drafted, there was some movement on the date of benefits payout. I believe it was initially supposed to be the 1st of 2026, and that was pushed back to the 1st of May of 2026. And I think one of the reasons for that was that the legislation had changed so much since the study commission that looked at this. And so there wasn't an accurate actuarial analysis to determine the true cost of the program. And so our big question is, when will that actuarial analysis be completed? We think it's probably a pretty important precursor to formal rulemaking and setting of the contribution rate, and certainly of paying any contributions into the system. And so we just urge the authority and the department to really prioritize that as quickly as possible under the parameters under statute. And I know the deadlines are fixed in statute, but it does seem like it's going to be a tall task to meet a lot of these requirements in advance of the 2 deadlines. And so just also urge the authority to really be transparent with the legislature. And if there needs to be a legislative fix to adjust deadlines, I think that would be a preferred solution all around rather than try to rush this. It's a very big seismic shift in Maine for employers, and it'd be better to be transparent and adjust deadlines if needed in order to ensure a smooth and solvent launch of the benefit. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eamon. Okay, next on the list, looks like Carolyn Ball, and I'll just let you folks know too, I'm lowering hands as I go, so please feel free to raise it if you have an additional comment, but Carolyn Ball, I should have just asked you to speak.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Ball, and I'm Select Board Chair for the town of Southwest Harbor. And we just had to put in monies for our budget, so this is rather late to get questions answered, along with rulemaking, because we plan our budgets for a fiscal year starting in July, and we started that process now. My concern otherwise, besides the fact that we have to proceed, assuming that we've got the percentage correctly, is that the Maine Family and Medical Leave Act is set forth for employees eligible if they have worked for a covered employer for at least 1 year for 1,250 hours. And this leave is calculated differently. And I think that makes for rather confusion for employers, probably not just local governments. This one is the individual must have earned at least 6 times the state average weekly wage over the past 4 quarters. So I'd like to have help how we mesh the Unpaid Medical Leave Act and this one. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Carolyn. Okay, up next, I have Maine Women's Lobby, so I'm giving you permission to speak.
Hello, thank you very much for having us. My name is Katie Reed, and I work at the Maine Women's Lobby, and I am here with the Maine Paid Leave Coalition. We're a group of 40 partners who are working to create and support implementation of the paid family medical leave system in Maine. We want to offer some input for tonight. We also have this in writing and are happy to share more questions that we have about contributions specifically. But as a coalition, a few of the things we wanted to highlight are one of our highest priorities for an effective program is ensuring that all workers are able to participate, including self-employed individuals, which means that all workers and employers have access to a low barrier program enrollment, that there's transparency regarding their contribution rate, and then a fair assessment of their wages. The greater clarity and transparency that the state can provide on how contributions are calculated, collected, and then enforced, the greater public confidence and understanding in this program will be. We would also recommend that payroll deductions be named and identified and defined on pay stubs, that there be additional information available on the Maine Department's website, including a contribution calculator, possible eligibility information, overall program guidance, and then a timeline, right? When benefit applications and then when benefit distributions will be available. We also wanted to highlight issues around or questions around enforcement. So enforcement of the full and fair contributions ensures that the fund will be stable and solvent. So we just wanted to highlight that employers, all employers are contributing their premiums when applicable, and their employees' premiums is critical to the success of this program. We recommend that the department ensure that contributions are made in full using a range of tools, one of which is a thorough public and employer education and promotion of the program rules, easy to access data about what employer has contributed, spot checks with employers to proactively seek out questions and provide guidance in advance, and then enforcement mechanisms and consequences if and as necessary. Finally, we wanted to just share that we believe that an effective, efficient, and affordable program should be publicly administered. We know that the law includes an option to outsource administration to a third party or a private insurance company, and our coalition strongly supports a publicly administered social insurance program run for public and not private benefit. We really urge the department to maintain the integrity of the program by keeping public infrastructure public, and believe that this would be logistically better suited to implement all of the recommendations that we would like to make around contributions. It would increase transparency, support employers and employees, and enforcement of contributions overall. So thank you. And like I said, we have this written along with some additional questions, and we'd be happy to submit that if that would be helpful.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
So next on the list, I have Becky Jacobson, pardon me. And I just wanted to remind folks that you can use the raise hand function I'm still in here, I'm sorry. I just lost the Zoom. Apologies. Do you wanna allow folks to speak?
Yes, yes, yeah. So I'll be tag teaming. So next is Becky Jacobson. Right, Becky, can you?
Hi, sorry about that. This is Nate Cloutier. I'm on a shared Zoom account.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Dylan and Reggie. My name's Nate Cloutier. Providing comment on behalf of Hospitality Maine today, which is a trade association representing restaurants and lodging establishments. We have over 1,300 members of all sizes across the state. Thank you for hosting this session. I'd just like to reiterate what both Eamon and Jake LaChance said about an actuarial study. That's something that we had advocated for while the language was being drafted on the bill in 1964, but there wasn't enough time to get that completed, nor I don't think there was funding for it. But I think an actuarial study is something that is imperative to make sure that we're on the right path. I'd urge the department to talk to their counterparts in Minnesota and ask what they've just recently gone through. Their program is going to cost, because they just got their actuarial study back that says that their program is going to cost $600 million more than they originally anticipated over 3 years. And they put in almost $700 million to set up the program and to put some initial reserves in there before the program actually started. It does give me pause to think that the taxes will start to begin to be collected on January 1st, 2025, and that's the same deadline as rulemaking. I think that the rulemaking should be completed before you expect folks to start contributing to the program. Yeah, with that, I guess I'll say we're always available, the department's at the department's request, to talk through this, and we appreciate the opportunity to provide comment.
Thank you. So now we're going to go to Carol Snyder. So I'm going to bring you in, and you can begin whenever you wish.
Yes, good evening. My name is Carol Snyder. I'm the Director of Human Resources and for Creative Options. We're a social service agency here in Maine. And my concern is this: having lived through the COVID debacle at the Department of Labor in terms of unemployment, my concern is that you have enough staff available to us when this rolls out, because we don't want to be being told nobody can take calls anymore, or nobody's available in the afternoon, or your phone call is going to go to an inbox, or people are going to be on hold for 3 or 4 hours we simply don't have the manpower for that. So my hope is when this gets rolled out, you give us the support that we need to make sure we're doing things correctly so that we're not running into problems, we're not breaking the law, we're not misinterpreting things, and that you are available to us. That it wasn't always the case, and it continues to be a struggle with the unemployment system. So again, I would just beg you, make sure you have enough people allocated to this rollout so that we can do the right thing and we have resources available when situations come up and we don't know how to deal with them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so now we will move to Dirk.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. My name is Dirk Gowans. I am the executive.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, you went unmuted for a second.
How's that better?
Yes. Yeah, sorry, it was a brief pause.
No worries. Thank you very much. And thanks.
Yeah.
There's always some technical glitches. You just never know.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'd like the committee to consider a few things. One of them was just mentioned, and that is the fact that in Minnesota, the program that was approved at about the same time as the main program was this past spring, the legislation that was approved was then subject to an actuary, the same actuary that was initially hired by Maine, Millman, to take a look and see if the numbers that they approved would actually work. And as it turns out, they were off by 31%. So the actual cost of the program is going to be 31% higher than what was approved by the legislature. Additionally, I just found out this is from 3 weeks ago that the state of Massachusetts has imposed a 39% increase on their PFML program for employers with 25 or more employees, and a 43% increase on employers with 25 or fewer employees. And most striking is the New York program, which has probably been in place for about the longest of all of them. It was initially approved in 2015 and started paying out payments in 2018. And there's a report that was done by the New York State Comptroller's Office, Thomas P. DiNapoli. It was published in April of 2023, and it reviews the first 4 years of the program. And over that 4-year program, the cost of the program for premiums paid by the employees rose by 493% over just 4 years. So clearly there's a lot of underestimating that is being done with these programs as far as the estimated cost compared to the actual cost over time. And so since Maine is starting this program from scratch, I think it would be beneficial to not only review the other states and seeing their experience, but also, as some of the other people have called here for, is to get that actuary back on track and get it back working for Maine again, because they did do initial study, but then all the parameters changed. And so by that point, that actuary was no longer under contract. So I think it's probably really important for them to get back on contract and get back with these new parameters to see what the actual cost of this program will be to Maine employees and employers. Thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it. Have a great evening.
Great, thank you. All right, so now we will go to, we're going to take a brief. Okay. Oh, okay, both Spotlight. Okay, I just wanted to double check. All right, so now we're going to go to Curtis Picard. So going to go ahead and bring you in. Curtis, are you here?
Hey, there we go.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Gentlemen, nice to see you. Thank you for doing these listening sessions. I'm Curtis Picard, representing the Retail Association of Maine and retailers across the state. I won't repeat what some other folks have said, but I do echo what the Maine State Chamber, the Portland Chamber, Hospitality Maine have highlighted before. I do want to point out that there is a little bit of a challenge in doing these sessions by topic. We've been trying to educate our members as much as possible about this new law. And, given the listening sessions, how they're being laid out, it would both be helpful to know the topics of all the future sessions, as well as I would urge the department to have just an open one to hear from folks, because they do have a lot of questions that I think need clarity and answers. I would point out that the department did that when the earned paid leave law came on board, and I thought it was very helpful in making sure we had a good, solid law that answered a lot of people's questions and concerns. And in speaking of the earned paid leave law, one of the things that employers brought up, and it's been sort of mentioned, I think Jake from the State Chamber mentioned it as well. It's critically important that we have a lot of these rules in place by the end of summer. Payroll systems are very complex, and folks are going to need 3 or 4 months to get their systems in order to make sure the payroll contributions occur on January 1st. So I know that's an aggressive timeline, but it's one we brought up during the public hearing as well in terms of timing on this. And then the last thing I will mention is I appreciate the Maine Women's Lobby mentioning enforcement. I think one of the concerns we have in the law in Section 850F, subsection 9, is the 1% enforcement penalty that's in there. And our concern is if you have an employer that makes a mistake with contributions, even if it's minor, the way I read that section of the statute is you will be assessed a 1% penalty of your entire payroll for the year, which we think is excessive. So I would urge folks to take a look at that and consider that as you go through the rulemaking. And then lastly, I think other folks have mentioned it. We are interested to know what the process is going to be to determining whether or not a private plan is considered substantially equivalent. We do think that needs to be done this year before contributions start, or else employers are going to be in a complex situation of, do we maintain our current plan and make contributions at the same time if later on it's determined our plan is or is not substantially equivalent. So thank you for the opportunity, and I appreciate all the work that you and the authority and the new director are doing on this.
Thank you. All right, so now at this time, I don't see any other additional hands, but there's still plenty of opportunity for folks to offer comment if they wish. So please feel free to do so.
Yeah, feel free to use the raise hand function, and I will unmute you and let you speak.
Okay. Let's see.
Again.
Randy. Okay.
Randy. Okay, why don't we do Randy first if we have a new voice, and then Betsy. So I'll go ahead, Randy. Should be all good.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Randy Place. I'm one of the selectmen from the town of Moreland. We're a very small municipality, and we have just 3 employees, none of them of which work more than 20, maybe 25 hours a week, depending on the time of year. And I'm just curious. I didn't see anything in there, anything where we're exempt, or there's a minimum number that would be exempt, or part-time employees, or how that works. So that would be my question or I just want to understand how a small municipality is supposed to pull this off when we have a very small payroll, how we work that.
Again, we're gonna try our best to not answer any substantive questions, but what we are doing is capturing these questions. So that's something we've definitely heard from other folks. So thank you for offering that comment. And if you had any other comments, please feel free to do so. I didn't mean to stop you.
No, that's kind of the main one, just to see where we stand with that and how we're going to get this instituted before the deadlines.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. Okay, so next is Betsy, and I think you have permission to speak, Betsy.
Thank you. Yes, Betsy Olton again. Thank you for taking subsequent comment from me. Again, appreciate the last speaker because I'm representative of the Maine Local Government Human Resources Association with over 150 towns, municipalities, et cetera. Again, their budget season is beginning now or has begun about a month ago for FY 2025, which would include 1/1/2025. So really understanding that percentage, but also understanding, and I know I mentioned it earlier, but understanding what wage we're looking at in terms of the calculation piece, what that wage includes. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. I just want to remind folks, they can use the raise hand function, should be, I believe, at the bottom of your screen, along the sort of the toolbar, if you will, along the Zoom window. Okay, I see Becky Jacobson. So I'm gonna give you permission here.
Probably Nate.
Oh, yeah, or Nate.
Nate,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, thanks for indulging. I'll just be very brief. Snake Cloutier with Hospitality Maine again. There's one point I wanted to make that I forgot. Minnesota started with a 0.4% tax, and then since 2020, that's had to go up to 0.8%. So it's doubled in 4 years. It gives me a little bit of concern that the bill language, or the law rather, gives so much broad authority to the department to raise that percentage threshold when the amount that we're talking about in Minnesota was, tens of millions of dollars that the department had authority to levy on their own. So I just asked the department to think about what, if any, legislative input should be required for that substantial of a change.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Nate. Okay, and it looks like Gail, your hand is raised again, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you the permission. Should be all set.
Thank you. I just wanted to add one more subject to the topic of defining the wage. And there are some pieces of payroll that are deducted before taxes, like Section 125 plans. And so when they're talking about definitions, if they would specify those types of things that might be exempt because they're not taxed at all, that would be helpful as well. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other hands. But please feel free to raise using the raise hand function, and I can give you permission to speak.
That might be. All right, so we're seeing no other raised hands this time in terms of, oh, never mind.
Okay, so Kate Blackford, I should have just asked you to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Hi, everybody. My name is Kate Blackford. I'm the policy director at the Maine People's Alliance. Thank you so much for putting this together tonight. We're really excited for all 4 listening sessions and for the questions that are coming up. I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments. One is around, there's been a number of sort of concerns around the actuarial work that went into the estimates for the potential contribution rates. And the actuarial work that was done here in Maine was extremely rigorous. And the actuarial work in Minnesota was as well. The cost difference for them was between a 0.07% contribution rate versus a 0.078 contribution rate. And it's simply because their economy is so large that that's how the NFIB calculated the difference to be $600 million. So one of the things that I think the department will be able to rely on are the multiple actuarial reports that were produced by Milliman, and the fact that the legislation does actually call for an additional actuarial study before the program benefits are available, and we have the security of an additional 3-month period to continue collecting contributions to ensure that our fund is stable and solvent. And I think that there was a lot of really thoughtful work done by so many people, particularly the commission that was led by Senator Daughtry and Representative Cloutier, to make sure that the program would really work in the long term in Maine. And of course, we want to make sure that those numbers are continue to be accurate. But I don't think we've seen the kind of massive cost overruns in other states that have been put forward tonight. And I would hate for someone to hear those numbers and to get really worried that this isn't something that's been shown to be really effective in a lot of other states. And also, we are, of course, huge proponents of making sure that the contributions are full and fair, and that there's a lot of public education that goes out to folks across various industries, and that there is education done sort of in a variety of ways and through a variety of channels to make sure that employees, employers, folks who are self-employed, folks who are part-time, people who are seasonal, that all of those folks really understand sort of how the program works before those contributions begin and how their contributions are calculated, because the more transparent and clearly understood the program is, and we think the greater the public confidence is going to be in it, and that the more folks are able to just have access to that information, both in terms of what they can anticipate their contributions being, as well as what contributions they have already made, the stronger the program will be in the long run. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I think I see Jake once more. Go ahead, Jake. If you also.
Yeah, I would just like to say one thing to that point. If I completely agree that going forward, this should be something that folks are able to comprehend and are able to actualize for themselves, whether it be a municipality or business or whatever the entity may be. But it shouldn't be lost as well that a massive portion of this is making sure that the private companies that are going to have a chance to even have a chance of being able to match this, and giving the employers the chance to have those options. If that's not done in a time frame that's feasible or acceptable for them to be able to do that, then that's going to be a huge problem for any employer or municipality. So if the time isn't taken to make sure that the private equivalent plans are being able to be done in terms of what these contributions are, then it's really kind of a moot point to make sure that these things are understood in the way that they're meant to be. So I appreciate the time to being able to add that on.
Great, thank you.
Reminding folks that can use the raise hand function to get permission to speak. So feel free to just raise the hand and I will give you the permissions. All right, it looks like Christina has raised their hand. Let me give you the unmute. Okay, feel free.
Hi there. Thank you so much. My name is Christina Duzlak. I'm a management side attorney at Cy Farshall LLP. And I would just encourage this group here to consider clear guidance and how employers need to be paying contributions and what they need to do if there's an error. I know other states, especially when programs were starting up, gave some guidance on how to do catch-up payments, and maybe even like contact information if there is an issue. So that would just be my comment there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. All right, Eric Venturini, I'm gonna ask you to unmute. Okay, go for it.
Hey Dylan, hi Reginald. This is Eric Venturini with Wild Blueberry Commission of Maine. Just really, first, thanks for putting this on. We're still pretty confused as to how this is going to be applied to seasonal workers. So I just encourage you all, hopefully before the next listening session, to maybe put out some better guidance or some additional information on kind of how you're thinking this will work for agricultural employers, that only hire folks for maybe a couple months a season. Just a lot of questions in reading through the statute and how that's going to work. So I'll leave that there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Right, so we still have about maybe 30 minutes or so remaining. So for individuals who wish to offer public comment, there's still time to do so.
Looks like I see Gail. Some more. I'm gonna ask you to unmute. Okay, go for it.
Thank you very much. I'm wondering if there'll be guidance for instance, if several school districts were to get together and have a third-party administrator for this, will there be guidelines for that? That's my question. I know you don't want to answer it now, but I'm leaving you that question.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Gail. I see Jennifer here. And just before I give you the permission, Jennifer, just want to remind folks, and maybe somebody is having trouble with the raise hand function. On my end, it is on the reactions button on the bottom toolbar of Zoom. There should be a raise hand option. So if anybody's having trouble, feel free to take a look at your toolbar. Okay, Jennifer, you should be all set.
Okay, after listening to everybody else speak, I do realize, though, my grievance is extremely valid. It might be in the wrong space, so I apologize for that. I would just be very interested in learning what that correct space would be so that progress can be made on it. I yield my time.
Thank you.
Okay, Peter Gore, I am gonna give you permission to speak. Go right ahead.
Good evening, Dylan and Reginald. I appreciate you taking the time to hear these comments tonight. My name is Peter Gore. I'm speaking on behalf of a number of my clients. There is a question that has come up regarding I know this is focused on funding, so I want to stay on that. On the funding situation regarding small businesses who are on the cusp of the threshold of the tax. So for example, if you're a small business who for most of the year only have approximately 12 employees. And for part of the year, for say 8 months, but for the other 4 months out of the year, you will have 16 employees. How do you, as a small business, account for the tax portion of the required tax portion once you go above the 15 employee threshold? You are not paying the tax on the 4 new employees you have. You're paying the tax on all on all 15 employees that you have, or 16 employees that you have. So the question is, to simplify it, what does a small business do if they are below the threshold for part of the year, but will be above the threshold the other part of the year, and with part-time employees, and how will that be accounted for? So thank you very much. I appreciate the time that you've taken.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Feel free to raise your hand with the raise hand function, and I will unmute you or give you access here. Gail, I'm gonna go ahead and give that to you.
Thank you. Peter brings up an interesting point. In the school district, quite often we use FTE, not warm body. So if we're looking at FTEs, we wouldn't have this situation because we employ so many people. But if it's an FTE that just crosses that line of 15, how will that be assessed? Will it be a full warm body in the room and it doesn't matter the hours? Or will it be an FTE if all you use is 2 part-time people that don't even qualify as 1 full-time? So I'm just leaving that another question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gail. And Peter, I believe this is a new hand raise. So
Okay.
let's see. Okay, go right ahead. I could have been mistaken.
Peter, did you have any other comments, or was that from the from the previous raise hand? Okay, maybe it's from the previous.
Peter, I'll lower your hand. Oh, that looked like he just cut him off. Sorry for that, Peter. I think I may have cut you off.
No, I'm sorry. I will lower my hand. I did not mean to raise it. I thought it went down after you spoke. So
A couple times, I think I lowered somebody's hand and then they put it back up because they were trying to lower it, but thanks, Peter.
Thank you. All right, so we still have about 27 minutes remaining. So please feel free to use this opportunity if you wish to offer any comments that you think the department needs to consider with contributions.
It looks like you may have raised your hand, Pete, but you lowered it again. So if you do have a question, feel free to raise that. Oh,
okay, raise it again.
Okay, Pete, go right for it.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My question is more of a a question. What if you can give guidance on this? You don't have to answer tonight, I guess. But if your employer offers paid family and medical leave currently, how does that reconcile with this new law? And there a netting, or is this an addition to? I just like some guidance on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. With a new hand, Pete again? Go ahead, Pete. If it's not a new. Like Betsy, go right ahead.
Thank you. This is just I know you can't answer questions, but I just want to clarify something. So these listening sessions that are based on topics of the law, are you still receiving, as you know, Reggie, we've worked together providing multiple questions and scenarios of the law as a whole and how it affects municipalities and school departments. Are you still receiving those questions as you're going through the rulemaking process? And are all of the subject of this law going to be a part of a listening session as well?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep. All right. Jason.
Hey, Jason, go right ahead.
Hi there, gentlemen. I apologize for jumping in here late. Jason Clay, I represent Governor's Restaurants across the state. I guess my question has to do with logistics in terms of how, we're remitting these contributions to the state in terms of, just for consideration's sake, I think that it would work better if it was kind of set up like sales tax and done on a monthly basis, just from, the workload aspect of having to set that up. Not quite sure what you folks are thinking about with that, if it's going to be integrated where we could possibly, go right through our payroll system as well. But, trying to make that as easy on our payroll folks as possible so that we can get that done correctly for you. So thanks for the listening session. I'm looking forward to all 4 of these.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Feel free to use the raise hand function and I will unmute you. Okay, Elaine, go right ahead.
Yes, hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I know Reggie and I met the other day and I gave him a long list of questions and things to think about. But Betsy just made me think of something, which is, I know that the rules and regulations, the target date to have them available is January 1st, 2025. Other states that have rolled out paid family medical leave programs have released proposed rules and regulations in piecemeal and then allowed for employers, third-party administrators, and all interested parties to give feedback on those proposed rules and have also had listening sessions to discuss them. And I wanted to recommend that in this situation as well, especially because those rules and regulations are not due out until the same time as the premium contributions begin. So that's all. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Elaine. First question, go for it. Okay, maybe I did it too soon.
All right, we still have about 20 minutes or so. So please feel free to raise your hand. Seeing. Is there anyone else in the audience that wish to offer public comment? Guess we're not. If there are no others, we just want to make sure before we wrap up, we don't want to cut off anybody's opportunity to offer comment before we close. So, right. All right. Seeing no other raised hands at this time, we do thank you again for attending tonight's listening session and taking part of it and offering that public comment. We do encourage you all to visit the Maine Department of Labor's webpage on paid family medical leave by going to www.maine.gov/labor/PFML/ on information pertaining to future listening sessions, which we know many of you have offered great comments on, and we will certainly consider that as we wrap up the final two in February. And with that, I wish everyone a good night and safe travels.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks so much, Margaret and Julia.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You
as
too.
well. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you.